Hello, and welcome to today's study. Today we are going to start the book of Matthew. Now, let's just take a step back and just look at who he is and what, his story is just before we start with Matthew chapter 1. Now, let's take a look here. Now, Matthew, his name means gift of the Lord. He was a tax collector and he is also called Levi. He was a tax collector, but he left his occupation and actually followed Jesus and he became an apostle. What is the purpose of this gospel? Now, the purpose of the gospel is of Matthew's gospel is to prove to the Jewish readers that Jesus is their Messiah. He does this primarily by showing how Jesus, in his life and in his ministry, fulfilled the Old Testament scriptures. Now, even though every gospel writer refers back to the Old Testament, Matthew in particular, he references, he has 9 unique um, instances where he quotes back to the Old Testament apart from the other gospel writers, just to drive home the basic theme that Jesus is the fulfillment of the predictions from the Old Testament. Okay, so with that very basic outline or history, let's start with Matthew. Now, the very first section is the birth and the early years of Jesus. This is chapters 1 and 2. So let's start with chapter 1a, which is the genealogy. That is chapter 1, verse 1 to 17. So, Matthew chapter 1. The ancestors of Jesus the Messiah. Now, this is just the genealogy, don't worry, we are not going to read everything. This is a record of the ancestors of Jesus the Messiah, a descendant of David and of Abraham. Now, verse 1 to 17 is just the general genealogy. Abram was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Judah and his brothers. And now this genealogy continues right until verse 17. All those listed above include 14 generations from Abram to David, 14 from David to the Babylon exile, and 14 from the Babylonian exile to the Messiah. Now, verse 18 is going to start and tell us more about the birth of Jesus. This is how Jesus the Messiah was born. His mother, Mary, was engaged to be married to Joseph. But before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit. Joseph, to whom she was engaged, was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly. So he decided to break the engagement quietly. Now, make no mistake, guys, when it says, so he decided to break the engagement quietly, that is divorce. He wanted to divorce her because he was under the impression that she cheated on him. Okay, let's just zoom in on verse 18. This is how the birth of Jesus the Messiah came about. So his mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Okay, so there was Mary and there was Joseph. Now, and Mary became pregnant through the Holy Spirit. So, she became magically pregnant without, no, any know-how from Joseph, any physical relations, no, nothing. And Joseph, he also did not knew about this. So Mary she became pregnant through the Holy Spirit. And now we start our little bugaboo. So, because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, He had in mind to divorce her quietly. Now look at those words. Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law. Now, let's remind ourselves, what does that mean? The law stated that you are not allowed to divorce your husband or your wife. That because what what God has joined together, let man not separate. So that is the law. However, if there is marital unfaithfulness, then the Bible actually does give you permission to separate or to instantiate a divorce. So that is why Joseph was he had reason to divorce Mary, and it would not have been a sin if she was really unfaithful to him, because it is actually in the Bible you may divorce if there is unfaithfulness. That doesn't mean that you should divorce, however. The Bible doesn't say that you should divorce if there's unfaithfulness. It just gives you permission. It's a biblical like permission that is given. If there is unfaithfulness, then you have permission to divorce. However, Joseph, he is you know, he is a very righteous man, and even though put yourself in his shoes, all the hurt, the sorrow, and the you thought you knew the lady. Like, I thought I knew you. Like, imagine the hurt, like, you have to live with, and like the anger you want to make a disgrace out of, your significant other. But it says, yet he did not want to expose her to public disgrace. He had in mind to divorce her quietly. He was, for all intents and purposes, a very righteous man. Verse 20. But after he had considered this, twiddling his thumbs and thinking, okay, so I'm going to divorce this woman. How am I going to go about? He received the breaking news. An angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. You can just imagine his face. It's like, huh, okay. Verse 21. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Jesus is the Greek form of Joshua, which means the Lord saves. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. The prophet that Matthew is referring to over here is actually Isaiah. Um, Isaiah 7:14. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. Verse 24, it's a little relief verse. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. I think that's a little bit of an understatement. When Joseph woke up, I think he like bursted awake. It's like, "Wah!" It's like, hey, Mary, I just had a dream that, and basically you're pregnant, but you have been faithful. So, yeah, that's going to take a little faith, don't you think? And then finally, the last verse. But he did not consummate the marriage until she gave birth to a son, and then, and he gave him the name Jesus. So that just means there were no physical relations between Joseph and Mary until Jesus was born. Okay, I'm very tired. It's 3:38 in the morning. So yeah, and that's the start of Matthew. Um, we are going to start with Matthew 2 in a bit. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will catch you with the next study. Thank you very much and take care. Bye.